If that's the case, I think it's legitimate for us to say, yes, Allah is the greatest deceiver of all. Because this would have to be the greatest deception in the history of the world. This is an interesting sort of question to me. I'll tell you why. So Islam denies that Jesus ever died. Now, if we're doing any kind of a historical analysis, the claims of Islam would be proven to be absolutely false. I think you can confidently say there aren't any, but I know there's a couple, and literally like just I'd say less than 10 scholars and historians who would say that Jesus of Nazareth was not crucified, or that Jesus of Nazareth did not exist. A vast majority of scholars on the subject will tell you that Jesus' death was by crucifixion. That's the data we have. That's the earliest sources we have when it comes to both sources extra-biblically and obviously biblically. Now, you could use the Bible as an early source without making the religious claims. You don't necessarily have to make claims like Jesus is God in order for you to make claims that Jesus died by crucifixion. So when it comes to Muslims denying the crucifixion of Jesus, the death of Jesus, they have to do a couple of things in order to bypass the vast historical data on the subject. So here's what they do. There's a couple of claims they make. There's two, actually, that if wasn't there, it doesn't get off the ground. First, there's a denial of the authenticity of the biblical text. So the Islamic claim is that the Bible has been changed and it cannot be trusted. And so therefore, when we're talking about the Bible teaching that Jesus died, they're going to say, no, it's been corrupted, so on and so forth. You can't trust it. The second one, which I find to be probably the initial one, is that, and this is the Islamic claim, is that Jesus didn't die, but it was someone else in his place that died. And then everybody thought it was Jesus that died. Now, I didn't invent this, but I call this the pink elephant in the lobby argument. I've used this before. But essentially what the Muslim is saying is that you cannot trust historical data because God made it seem like it was Jesus, but it wasn't Jesus. And how do we know this? Well, it was told to some guy. It was told to some guy who claimed to be a prophet 600 years after the fact. So can we trust all the earliest sources? No. Can we trust the individuals that are standing there? No. Why can't we trust them? Oh, because they really thought it was Jesus. But it wasn't, because it was made to them to appear that it was Jesus. That's interesting. Now that's going to lead to a number of issues, I think, when it comes to the Islamic conception of God. For example, that naturally leads to the conclusion that Allah is the originator of a false religion called Christianity, in which Jesus is worshipped. I'm talking about this from an Islamic perspective. That the originator of the world's largest religion, and from Islamic perspective, the world's largest false belief, is actually God. So, sounds pretty contradictory to what God would want people to do. To lead countless men and women to hellfire because of a lie that he came up with. If that's the case, I think it's legitimate for us to say, yes, Allah is the greatest deceiver of all. Because this would have to be the greatest deception in the history of the world. And it's not just a deception that doesn't have consequences, but it is a deception that has eternal consequences for millions of people. it's not just that the Muslims deny that Jesus died. It's that the reasoning for their denial becomes problematic to their view of God. Now, I would rather trust all the earliest sources. And forgive me for not trusting a guy who claimed to be a prophet, who said, no, God made it appear like he died, but he really didn't die. And you just got to trust me, bro. Considering also that this individual who came up with this is a highly problematic individual with the way that he lived his life and the things he said and the countless other contradictions and issues you can find in his life as to what it means to live a holy, godly life. So that's my opinion in regards to Muslims claiming that Jesus did not die. The crucifixion didn't happen. I think it's very problematic for them. And it's an argument from silence. It's not just an argument from silence, but it is also an argument in which all the earliest sources and facts pile up against the Islamic claim. And the only way you can go around it is by saying, no, there's a secret conspiracy by God where all these people legitimately and in their own rightful mind should believe the crucifixion because they were legitimately deceived into believing that was Jesus dying on the cross. And then, at least for the first 600 years after that event, nobody had any way of knowing that they were going to hell by believing this lie. That's very problematic when it comes to Islam. Hey, it's good to see you here on Apologia Center. This is a ministry that's there to provide you, the viewer, with content that's going to be informative for you, that you can learn from and apply into your life as you develop your worldview formation as a Christian. If you're not a Christian, you're more than welcome to be on this channel and maybe be challenged by some of the claims of Christianity and challenge us with your claims in a friendly, respectful way. I think this is a channel like no other on YouTube, frankly, because of the community we've developed. So if you want to be a part of this community, go ahead and hit the like button. Go ahead and subscribe to this channel. Join us on Discord and jump onto our Patreon and just be a part of the community.